It's the age of discovery. Christopher Columbus crosses the Atlantic for the fourth and final time to explore the Caribbean coast of Central America. But after sustaining damage, first from an indigenous raid and second, a storm, he and his crew are stranded in Jamaica. Columbus and his crew have survived on the goodwill of the indigenous population, the Taino. But after many months, their patience is running thin. Fearing they would become hostile and consulting his astronomical almanac, Columbus devises a plan. He tells the Taino leader that due to their dwindling support, his Christian God was becoming angry. So angry, in fact, he would inflame the moon. 3 days pass. The sun sets in the west and in the east, the moon rises. But there is something terribly wrong. The locals are aghast. They beg, plead and howl as the moon becomes engulfed in red flame. Soon the locals relent and promise to cooperate. Satisfied but wanting to maintain his illusion, Columbus retires to his quarters. On cue, he reappears just minutes before the lunar flames cease to inform the locals that his God is pleased and they have been pardoned. Moments later, the sun's direct light turns the moon silver white once again. Columbus bought himself and his exasperated crew more time to be rescued, which would be a full year after he washed up on Jamaica's shores. What they all had witnessed was the total lunar eclipse of March 1st, 1504. A lunar eclipse is when the Earth is directly between the Sun and the Moon. Light passes through the Earth's atmosphere and we see it reflected off the Moon's surface. It's red for the same reason sunsets are red. The Earth's atmosphere deflects away blue light. Why were the Taino so shocked by the eclipse? Eclipses are a natural phenomenon caused by the conjunction of the Sun, Earth and Moon, all of which follow regular patterns, days, months, years, but eclipses occur seemingly at random. Why? The answer is related to the Moon's lopsided orbit. It's roughly 5 degrees off the plane that the Earth orbits the Sun, called the ecliptic. Because of this, when the Moon passes between or behind the Sun and the Earth, is often far above or below the ecliptic plane. If the Moon orbited on the ecliptic, we'd get lunar and solar eclipses every month, but the tilt makes all the difference. The 2 points at which the Moon crosses the ecliptic are called lunar nodes, and when the Moon is at or close to a node, only then are eclipses possible. Luckily, the lunar nodes drift over time like a wobbling top. They will have made one full revolution roughly every 6,585 1/3 days. After this period of time, the Earth, Moon and Sun return to approximately the same position. Full or partial eclipses in practice do happen a small number of times a year, but you'll probably be in the wrong place to see them. Without data, written records and models of the heavens from which to make predictions, eclipses seem to come out of nowhere. Columbus predicted the eclipse thanks to the work of an astronomer known as Regiomontanus, which is a Latinization of his birthplace, Königsberg. Columbus carried with him his ephemerides, tabulated data of astronomical observations. The timings and positions of stars and planets were crucial for pre-GPS maritime navigation. The indigenous population of Jamaica kept no such data, and it would have been many years since the last such eclipse, they were caught totally off guard, susceptible to Columbus's trickery. Solar eclipses occur when the moon comes between the sun and a point on the Earth. A total solar eclipse is when the sun is entirely covered by the moon, from one point on the ground at least. Total solar eclipses are shocking not just because they are rare and irregular, they are also just stunning. The moon covers the sun without overlap. Suddenly, day becomes night. In times gone by, it would have been easy to equate the sun and the moon, to think they are the same kind of thing. And by looking at their angular size, that is to say, how big they seem from the ground, you can see why. The sun and moon are basically the same size in the sky, but in reality, the sun is 400 times wider than the moon. By pure coincidence, the moon is 400 times closer to the Earth than the sun, at least on average. The term eclipse comes from ancient Greece. Calypso hid Odysseus away like the moon hides the sun. The initial syllable in calyptane is a distant relative of the word hell. The opposite of hiding, uncovering, may be an uneclipse, or to put it properly, an apoeclipse, which is where we get the word apocalypse. In 1806, a Shawnee chief and his brother wished to unite native North American tribes to resist the continued encroachment of European influence in the area. Tecumseh was the chief. His brother, who until recently was known as a noisemaker and an alcoholic, had transformed into a spiritual leader, taking the name of Tenskwatawa, meaning the open door. To his followers, he was the prophet. Against them was William Henry Harrison, who would go on to become president. Frustrated by their attempts to resist him, he penned a letter to the followers that dared their prophet to cause the sun to stand still, the moon to alter its course, the rivers to cease to flow, or the dead to rise from their graves. If he does these things, you may then believe he has been sent from God. The prophet was not shaken. He replied that in 50 days the Great Spirit would take the sun into her hand and hide it. Sure enough, his prophecy came true. Around noon on June 16, 1806, a total solar eclipse passed north of Greenville, Ohio, where nearly 1,000 of the prophet's followers were waiting. Unfortunately for them, they were just outside the path of totality. For them, at maximum, the sun was 99% blocked. But our eyes are so sensitive that it wouldn't quite have made the night day. An eclipse that was impressive, sure, but not profound. Behind the prophet's prediction was his brother Tecumseh, who was trying to bolster his brother's reputation. It's not certain how Tecumseh learned about the pending eclipse, but knowledge of such eclipses would not have been rare. Even some eclipse chasers would have come to the area to observe it. Perhaps he even owned an almanac, much like Columbus. What effect did the prophet's prophecy have? Not much. Harrison didn't back down, but the event may have given some extra credibility to the two brothers' political ambitions among local tribes in the short term. 5 years after the eclipse, another omen appeared in the sky, this time relating to Tecumseh. The Great Comet of 1811 shone overhead during the war that bore his name. Tecumseh, translated into English, can mean I shoot the way or shooting star. Finally, Herodotus wrote that in the 6th century BC, the philosopher Thales accurately predicted a solar eclipse. This same eclipse interrupted a battle between the Medes and the Lydians, who feared it was an omen. This account is of dubious veracity, but if it is true, it's the earliest known prediction of an eclipse. Today we have predictions of eclipses thousands of years into the future, but over the coming centuries, what natural phenomena, understood by a select few, will be used to wield political power over the credulous, the uninformed, or the superstitious? Thanks for watching.